in time. Cool. Hello. I'm Z-Man the Vegan here, and
this is Zoe.
And I'm Trey.
Woo! And today we're going to talk about insect rights.
Yes,
you got that right.
And then we're going to jam at the end.
Yeah.
So, would you like to start off with your thing?
Yeah. So one of the veganism is growing and it's gaining a lot of traction, worldwide. A lot of countries are definitely understanding the need, from the environmental aspect and everything. And I think one of the fewest and least talked about aspects of veganism that often really gets ignored is like insects, arachnids, and vertebrate rights. Because they are fundamentally, despite the fact that they're not vertebrates, they don't have internal skeletons, they're still animals. And there are far, 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 far more invertebrates than there are vertebrate species.
So, I've heard people say taking the focus away from the animals and agriculture and onto insects can turn people off, like especially people that aren't there yet, because many people don't have empathy for even like pigs and cows and chickens. And whenever you bring insects, but
I think it's all part of it. It's not about garnering empathy for a specific species. It's about understanding that all species deserve the same level of empathy and respect. It's not about picking and choosing which animals have the right to live. It's about helping people understand that because by virtue of existing as a living, thinking creature, it has the right to exist.
Yeah. I can see that. But what do you think about like somebody who, doesn't even get it for the animals? Do you think that them seeing something about insect rights would that keep them from?
I don't necessarily think that it would keep them from anything, because if they're not there with animals and they're not there for insects, including insects isn't necessarily going to change that. And I think oftentimes there's actually like a lot of species of spiders. Like most people have this idea of spiders in their head. They generally think of like Theridiidae, cobweb spiders, black widows, brown recluse. They hear all these awful stories, and that's their idea of spiders. But when you actually look at it and you see species like jumping spiders, most people find them actually pretty cute because they're intelligent. They're very curious little friendly critters.
Real quick,
and
I'm not sure how this works. Does that mean it's on mute, or does that mean
it's when it's blinking, it's on mute.
Okay.
Oh, is that yours?
Yes.
Should I turn the volume up, or does it just pick up like?
That is actually the volume of if you plug your headphones into them.
Oh, okay.
Because you can plug your headphones into the mic and then hear.
So to change up the conversation, unless you have any opinions on that.
I just wanted to say that one thing because I can see how maybe some people, especially with them being invertebrates and stuff, some people would just be like, oh, it's just a bug. Like, who really cares, right? So for me, like my thing would be, it kind of makes me think of like, it's just this Buddhist concept that I think it's called interdependence or something like that, where it's like, just for a human to exist, it takes all these different elements of, the sun, the moon, or the earth, all these. But like he's saying, with the insects, they are a huge part of the ecosystem. So, or like bees with pollen. So this idea that it takes everything to work together in harmony for anything to exist, really, is important. And so that's kind of how I think, maybe somebody could conceptualize why you should care about spiders or something, because
a good point that I've heard someone say is like, if all humans just disappeared on Earth, a lot of life would start to flourish.
Yeah.
But if all ants disappeared on Earth,
no more humans,
we'd see a
massive like ecosystem collapse.
That'd be interesting though, because I wonder if the humans were gone, like it would definitely have some sort of impact. But I guess since we're doing some bad things too.
But see, like no species relies on humans and consuming humans.
I see. So that's the difference.
Some of them have adapted to our environment.
We're basically like an invasive species.
Yes. Oh no, we're absolutely an invasive species.
And I feel like too. I mean, I'm sure you guys feel like this too, and probably people in general. But the thing is we're supposed to be like stewards of the earth. Like take care of it.
Yeah.
And
some people see us as rather than stewards, like having dominionship as far as like
yeah,
the opposite of that.
can want to control it. And
Yeah. So bringing the conversation over to the roach thing. So I work at a dining hall, and there's
We won't say which one.
there's a roach problem. Oh, Lordy. Not supposed to be talking bad about my job online. Anyway, but I really like if I see a roach, employees are like, "There's a roach," and I'm like, "I don't want to step on it," and then they'll run over and step on it. But there is a certain amount of like danger there as far as sanitation and disease.
Actually.
So
But on the flip side of that, if your work had a healthy population of spiders in it that could prey upon the roaches, there wouldn't be so much of a roach problem.
But then there'd be a spider problem. And
I mean, but spiders aren't really a problem. They're not going.
But in
out
a
and getting
restaurant,
food.
though, I mean, like,
so
I don't know.
So there's no objective like sanitation or like issue or more diseases that the spiders would bring.
Oh, okay. Huh.
The only theoretical health issue is even if the place was staffed with black widow spiders, widows are scaredy cats. They are terrified, and they did a test where they basically were testing the biting habits of I think it was southern widows, they're in the same genus. They're very, very closely related to black widows, and they mostly share the same behavior. Where they took like gelatin fingers, like little 2 pieces of gelatin, and they did tests where they prodded. They just poked the widows once in their web. They poked them multiple times in their web, and they held the widows between the 2 fingers. In the tests where they just poked the widow once, no bites, none at all. Wow. They either basically just kind of stood there, maybe curled up, and a lot of them like to play dead, or they try to flee. In the tests where they were repeatedly poked, out of 50 instances of that, they had 1 bite.
Wow.
In the tests where they held the widow between 2 fingers and kind of squeezed them there, they bit about 50% of the time. So 50% of the time they didn't even bite. They just freaked out and were trying to get out of there. Oh. And in half of those bites, they were dry bites. So spiders can control. Some species can't. Like that's the problem with Sydney funnel webs, the Atrax genus. They can't control the amount of venom they're using. They basically use their whole load on any bite, which is part of why they're so dangerous. With widows, venom is very, very expensive to produce. It takes a lot of resources, it takes a lot of food, and they only can produce so much of it at a given time. So they don't want to waste venom on anything that isn't a prey item. So most of the time, even if they do inject venom, they'll inject very little. And most of the time, they will just bite you as a warning, and they won't even use venom. They'll say, "Hey, I'm here. Stop fucking with me."
Yeah.
I think there hasn't even been a death from a black widow bite since something like the 80s.
Really?
Yeah, we have a lot of anti-venom, and it's very, very well known. It's not going to kill you very quickly, so as long as you have hospital access.
Yeah.
If you're a fully grown adult person, it's probably not going to kill you either way. It's going to make your life very, very unpleasant for the next, about like 2 days, 3 days. But it's unlikely to kill you unless you're immunocompromised or you're like a small child or a very like elderly person. And that's like the one species in the U.S. which poses any significant health risk.
Yeah.
Like even like brown recluses also have a terrible, terrible reputation. But they're gangly, harmless little scaredy cats.
Yeah. Yeah. We one of the places we used to live, we had boxes in this room, and then and we would occasionally, I mean, once in a great while, really, see a brown recluse go across the floor, and we'd take it outside, or I would, but we were going through some boxes one day, and there was all these dead ones in there, and it was actually in our band room, and we were in there playing music loud and everything, and apparently there was 50 of them suckers in there, and they never mucked with us. So it's like
recluses for a reason.
Right.
They're very shy.
Mhm.
They only really like to come out at night, if they even come out at all.
Yeah.
Like 80% of Missouri homes tested for them have brown recluses in them somewhere.
Oh, really?
Most of the time, they just live in the walls,
Yeah.
little dark cracks and crevices. They're scared of humans. They only have 6 eyes.
Oh.
And they have very poor vision, and their fangs are very small.
Hmm.
So they basically can't get through your skin, even if they were so inclined to bite you.
Huh.
Which, even if you're messing with them, like you're poking at them, they're just gonna run away. The only way you can ever get them to bite them is if you're pressing them against you. That's when they sense a lot of threat, and that's the only time they really end up biting people. Because when bites occur for brown recluse, either they have crawled into your bed and you roll over on them at night.
Yeah, I've heard that.
They're in your clothes that you might have left on the floor or something, and the clothing is pressing them against you, or they've been hiding in your shoes. And in all of those instances, external forces apply. They cannot penetrate human skin without external force pushing the fangs into you.
Wow.
And only in about
Interesting.
less than 30% of those bites, 30 to 20% of those bites, necrosis occurred. Like, the big, flesh eating away, which is mostly not actually a result of the recluse venom, but because recluse venom is hemotoxic. It means it destroys blood cells, which include white blood cells. So it, it's cytotoxic. It destroys a small amount of tissue, which then it creates conditions so that a secondary bacterial infection like MRSA to be able to take hold. And that's primarily the necrotic effects of these bites. And in less than 10% of effects, you had, major systemic effects, like issues with your kidneys and stuff. And there has not been a single confirmed report of a death from a brown recluse bite in our medical history.
Wow.
It just hasn't happened. There's been anecdotal stuff where people are not able to correctly identify the spider. They think it's a brown recluse, and some unrelated event occurs. They have necrosis, and then other issues happen. But we just don't see death from this.
So to bring it back to the dining hall, the only problem if spiders were incorporated would be
if people
are
freaked out about them.
Right.
But see, that's fundamentally why we need to increase education about these animals. Like, so a very, very common spider around here is the cellar spider. Some people call them daddy longlegs, but that name is also used for species of harvestmen, which are not spiders. They're arachnids, but harvestmen are a different class.
Okay.
And the little flying around, which those are also completely harmless. But cellar spiders, those very thin, long-legged, wispy little guys in the corner, they can't bite you. Their venom does nothing to you, but they are very effective insect predators, and especially spider predators.
Oh.
So you think they would eat roaches?
Yeah, if a roach got caught in their web and it was a big enough one, I definitely think that they would like to eat roaches. Them, as well as cobweb spiders like the Theridiidae, the Mastoidotas, the false widows, are all kind of web-building spiders that would love to hang out and eat roaches and stuff, as well as wolf spiders. But those don't really build webs; they kind of go around.
So a lot of the problem with this dining hall is the roaches are so far down in the drain that like each time they like on breaks they what's it called? Whenever you like not gases, but you put a bunch of poison everywhere and like people can't be in there. What's the word I'm trying to think of?
Like using fumigated?
Yeah. So but it never kills all the roaches because they're so far down in the drain. So if you incorporated these spiders, they could probably go down in the drains and actually finish or at least greatly reduce
the effect of these animals. And they could also, if there's population fostered outside and in the cracks and crevices where people can't necessarily check, if spiders took up a living there, they could potentially even stop new roaches from getting in. It's one of the things that they like to do in. I read a story about there was a guy up in the Northeast, like Boston, Massachusetts area, and he owned a cranberry bog, like a cranberry farm. And one of the things that they would do to keep pests down in the fields is they would encourage wolf spiders to live there, to live out in the fields, because they're very, very effective predators out there. And wolf spiders, in order to harvest the cranberries, you flood the bog, which causes the berries to float to the surface, pluck off the plants, and you basically put these big tubes around and you kind of amalgamate them, and then you bucket them up and you collect them.
Mm-hmm.
And wolf spiders are actually capable of swimming a little bit. They don't necessarily like being in the water, so they want to climb out of it. But they are capable of small amounts of swimming, as well as the Dolomedes genus, the fishing spiders.
Those are the ones that get on top of the water that we're talking about. Those
they can even dive underwater because they have special hairs on their abdomen around. So spiders actually have their lungs on their abdomen. They're in a shape called book lungs because they're like folded like the pages of a book.
Oh,
and most spiders, if they're in water, those lungs are submerged and they can't take in water and they'll drown. But these fishing spiders, and to a smaller degree wolf spiders, actually have special hairs on their abdomen, which create these air pockets around their book lungs.
Oh, wow.
So they can dive down in with these little air pockets and hunt small insects and fish.
Wow.
So they're very, very, that's what spiders are designed for. They're insect predators.
I got to throw this out there. One day I was at Stevens Lake and I saw one of the spider, the kind that are arachnid or whatever that was on top, they on top of the water. Those kind that like actually stand on the water. And so some wind came, or maybe I blew it. I think I did. I blew on it, and it like tumbled like somersaults on top of the water. It was really cool. I did not expect that, and yeah, it was neat. So just throwing that out there.
Yeah, there's actually a couple species of spider in the Moroccan desert.
Mm-hmm.
In order to escape from parasitic wasps who will sting them and then drag them back to their burrows and then lay eggs in them,
Mm-hmm.
they have a technique where they basically curl up into a ball and roll down the sand dune to get away from it.
Wow.
They're known as Moroccan flick-flack spiders because they kind of tumble like cartwheel end over end.
Nice.
Very cool critters.
Yeah.
And we've seen a lot of problems with pest insects because we use so many pesticides in our fields that it's not only keeping these natural insect predators, things like assassin beetles, things like spiders, away, like they're killing them off, and these more airborne things like locusts are able to still get to these crops. They're also, because they're poisoning these insects, affecting the bird populations. Because birds, they don't know what a pesticide is, so they'll go and they'll still eat these insects, and they'll ingest the pesticides, and are dying off as a result.
Wow.
So in trying to kill these pests, we're only damaging the entire ecosystem and all of these checks and balances around these animals.
Man.
So what do you think a solution to
Honestly, education. If we taught more people about insects and spiders and the crucial role they're playing in our ecosystems, and how and helping do away with this fear of spiders that has been instilled by a lot of pop culture, where they're these evil creatures that are out to get you, and if you mess them with it all, they'll jump at you and attack you, and you're going to die if you get bitten by a spider. When there are extremely, extremely few species which are even capable of harming you, and the event in which they actually bite you is just near unheard of.
Well, Spider-Man's a superhero, so maybe
They are.
maybe that'll help somehow.
Partially.
Yeah.
Although their bite story is unlikely because it just kind of fell on him and then randomly bit him for some reason, which it just doesn't happen.
But that's the only plot hole with it.
Yeah.
No, I agree though. That's an important education about these kinds of things. I didn't know this kind of stuff, and like with the birds and stuff. And the birds go, and then what's next, or so yeah. So keep your spiders, people.
Yeah. Insect rights, y'all. Well. Yeah.
Yup. And all that jokes. There we go.
all know. Everywhere I go, everywhere I go. They got nothing to say to you. Everybody wants to be about more reasons to keep being me. More reasons, more reasons, more reasons to keep being me. I would work, young girl, to the store, sing it all. Everywhere I go, everywhere I go. They got nothing to say to you. Usually, cause everybody wants to read about more reasons keeping me. More reasons, more reasons, more reasons keeping me. Yeah. Topic in a masquerade. Click on that link, what's it say? Creating fake facts in your face. Mother's back, another heart attack, another profit day. They ain't got nothing to say to you. If it needs to leave, everybody wants to read about more reason. Keep me. More reason. Keep me. More reason. Keep me. Woo! Too late.
Wait.
High five.
Wait.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. Well, that's it. That's it for tonight. I wish the one person watching this a beautiful night. Thank you.
Woo!
Peace out. Let's save the freaking planet, people.